Judge, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
You said the other day, quote, in all likelihood, I'm going to vote for Patrick Moses, who's running for sheriff in Tarrant County. And you said, I made it clear I'm going to be voting for a lot of Democrats this fall. You're a Republican. You've told me in the past, though, that you were going to support a Democrat, at least for one election. Are you switching parties?
No, I'm not switching parties. In fact, it was about 2 years ago when I was on the podcast with you and announced the fact that I was going to be supporting Mike Collier versus Dan Patrick. And I'm at the point this time where I'm looking at the presidential race and I'm looking at our senatorial race. From my standpoint, Trump has constantly belittled and, bullied people. He's disrespected our military and our vets, convicted of paying hush money to a porn star. And then the thing that broke the camel's back for me was the insurrection on January the 6th. And so that's the reason I wouldn't vote for Trump. But the reason that I will support and vote for Harris is the fact that I do believe she wants to lift people up. I believe very strongly that she approaches things with an open mind. I know there's been a lot of conversation about the fracking. I really believe that in 19, she was against that and she felt like because of environmental concerns that she needed to. But I think she approached it with an open mind and said that, okay, I can get to a lot of the clean air stuff that I want.
Yeah.
And still support fracking. So for that reason, I'm going to support her. And in the same thing in the senatorial race. From Cruz's standpoint, I can't support Cruz. Look at how he's siding with Trump, and look at how disrespectful Trump was of his wife and his father. He decided to go to Cancun when the rest of us were back here freezing. And then he sided with Trump in trying to basically delay the certification. At the same time, Allred has worked to get benefits for the military and for the vets on the burn pits. And then he's also tried to reach across the aisle on the immigration bill, saying that we need to secure the border. But again, that was derailed by Trump.
So you as a Republican are going to vote for Kamala Harris for president in November and then Colin Allred for Senate, two Democrats.
Yes.
What do you expect the reaction to be?
Oh, I know that what I consider to be the extreme far right Republicans will yell and scream, well, he never was a Republican, he was just a rhino. But I've looked at this, and as I've said, this Collier was the first Democrat I had ever openly endorsed, and Harris and Allred will be the second and third.
Here's what I can't figure out. I've heard a lot of one-offs, a lot of Republicans who say the same thing that you say. But how many others are there like you that are traditional Republicans, or Reagan Republicans, or Bush Republicans that are now not going to vote for their top of the ticket?
There's a lot, I think.
You think so?
They're afraid to come out because when they do, they get ridiculed and they get bullied and they get belittled. And so a lot of people who have been staunch Republicans, and it still are staunch Republicans, are afraid to stand up and be confrontational with some of the leaders that we have right now.
How do you think this is going to impact the election? Tarrant County has kind of been seen as maybe a purple county because it's gone back and forth.
I still believe that Tarrant County is a very fiscally conservative, very conservative type county. We want to help people, but at the same time, we want people to do everything they can to help themselves. So, if you look, remember, Biden won Tarrant County by about 1,800 votes last time. So I still think that it's going to be close, but I truly believe that that a lot of Republicans are going to go into that booth and say, I can't support the insurrection. I am a Texan, I'm an American before I'm a Republican or a Democrat.
Country over party.
Always.
And you think there are a number of people who are like you, a number of Republicans like this?
I have talked with a number of people who I believe will do that and will walk into that booth, and they may not openly come out and say I'm voting for Harris, or they may just not vote, but I think they'll do that, and I hope that they vote because this is too important of an election to let someone who openly talks about dictatorship, who openly talks about how rough you need to be on somebody, just give me an hour. And let me see, just give law enforcement an hour and let them really be tough and we'll get things accomplished. That's not the way to do it. In Ukraine, that's another thing. we've got to support Ukraine.
The fight for democracy there.
The fight for democracy, and I believe that Harris will, and I don't believe that Trump will.
Do you think there are enough people like yourself to impact an election, though?
I don't think it will impact the election in Texas, but I do believe that around this country it will. And Texas has been a Republican state for probably well over 40 years, I would guess now. We may have had one statewide. I've tried to think back on it.
It was the 90s was the last statewide Democrat.
Was that Sharp?
It was
Comptroller?
Commissioner, comptroller, not commissioner. Yeah, it was, comptroller.
And it's been a long time.
It has. You've been around politics for a minute, Judge. What do you expect is going to happen in the presidential race this year?
I think it's going to come down to the voting night. I think it's going to be extremely close. Again, I am concerned about the rhetoric we're going to hear leading all the way up to the election, and just as importantly, the days after the election.
Do you think this is solved on election night? Do you think we will know who the next president-elect is?
I think there will be continual fights, and I hope that it can be decided pretty quick. But you've already heard of, some of the states that are, if you go to hand counting votes, you're delaying it a long, long time. We had a group that came in and hand counted 2 races in the 2020 election. It took them close to 3 weeks, and that was the Granger race and the I'm trying to remember who the
It was a congressional race, though.
I think it was another congressional race. Yeah,
Wow.
Cornyn race. It was Cornyn, and it took them close to 2 to 3 weeks. They didn't find any problems. They thought they had, but then they looked at it, and we had recognized where the issue was, and we had done it back on election day. And so they had already indicated to us they were coming back in about 6 weeks. They didn't even come back. They just said, no, we're very comfortable with the elections.
Wow. What message do you have for the leaders of the Republican Party today?
Go back to working to address the issues that we need to address. Immigration. We need to be dealing with these major issues instead of getting it to the point to where we feel like we have to win and they have to lose. Washington, in his farewell address, addressed the fact that he despised political parties because he felt like in the long run they would be more interested in what their interests were than what the interest of the country was. And that's where we are.
Here we are.
Here we go.
Do you miss politics, Judge?
I miss the friends that I got to see on a daily basis. I don't miss the politics. We worked, I would say that in the 26 years I was on the court, we always had at least one Democrat on the court, and in some instances we had 2. And we worked together to solve the problems our citizens were facing, and we didn't make it about Republican or Democrat. Clearly, they're now very focused on the political aspects of everything that they do.
Judge, thanks for the time.
You bet. Thank you. It's good to see you.